between 20 and 25, the correlation between Bitcoin and gold has been almost non-existent, 0.14. But if you look at what's happened historically, certainly the last two cycles, gold has led Bitcoin. So we think Bitcoin is getting ready for another big run.
Cathie Wood's $1.5 million bull case for Bitcoin by 2030 rests on three primary adoption pillars: institutional capital, digital gold substitution, and emerging market usage. However, recent structural shifts have required adjustments within that framework. One major development is the explosive growth of stablecoins, particularly in emerging markets. Initially, ARK expected Bitcoin to serve as a primary hedge against currency debasement, hyperinflation, and capital controls in developing economies. And for many years, that is exactly what happened. However, stablecoins, especially dollar-backed instruments like Tether, have partially absorbed this function. They now provide rapid, frictionless access to dollar stability without the volatility associated with Bitcoin. This substitution effect slightly reduced ARK's near-term Bitcoin price estimates by roughly $200,000 to $300,000.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
That's our bull case, $1.5 million in 2030. There are a few compositional changes. One, stablecoins, so especially Tether in the emerging markets, have usurped one of the roles that we thought Bitcoin would serve. And that is, we thought that before stablecoins that people would, and they would buy Bitcoin as an insurance policy against confiscation of wealth, either in the form of inflation, hyperinflation, and massive devaluations, which occur regularly in the emerging markets, or outright confiscation of wealth. And so stablecoins now serve that purpose. Stablecoins are backed effectively by the US dollar, and therefore are hostage to our fiat monetary system. So that would have taken our price target down by $200,000 to $300,000. On the other side, what has happened to gold recently? Gold has doubled over the last 2 years. And has outperformed Bitcoin royally in the last year. So the digital gold role, and we think with intergenerational wealth transfers accelerating here throughout the world, that the younger generation will diversify into a digital gold option rather than the physical gold. It's more their world. And so we think that role has increased, or that the price should be supported by what has happened to gold. Now, if you look at a correlation matrix between 20 and 25, the correlation between Bitcoin and gold has been almost non-existent, 0.14. But if you look at what's happened historically, certainly the last two cycles, gold has led Bitcoin. So we think Bitcoin is getting ready for another big run. What has happened in the last few months is 10/10. So October 10th was the flash crash caused by a software glitch at Binance. And it got a lot of highly leveraged either speculators or investors way off sides. There was an automatic deleveraging that took place. About $28 billion worth of being off sides. And we're hearing that has pretty much cleared out. So we have very high hopes for Bitcoin. And talking to the team, we had a number of people on the Bitcoin brainstorm yesterday. Our thinking is okay, stablecoins are, they're serving a humanitarian purpose, this insurance policy backed by the dollar. But, and consider this is the Bitcoin crowd. They believe, and I do too, that Bitcoin, that its cause is freedom, financial freedom from all, government oversight and so forth, and from censorship and seizure and all sorts of things. As emerging markets' wealth grows, and we think this is a global phenomenon with all these technologies, they will move towards, from a savings point of view, right now they're hand to mouth for the most part, but from a savings point of view, they will move into Bitcoin. If you look at from the bottom of the bear markets, equity and crypto in late 22, Bitcoin has gone up, I think it's roughly 360%. So definitely one of the reasons was the inflation back then and fears that the Fed would not get it under control. So I think it has played the role. The question I get a lot is, wait a minute, you're expecting not inflation, but deflation. Doesn't that take away an important role that you think Bitcoin's going to play? And our answer there is, yes, Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. It's mathematically metered to top out at 21 million. It's going up 0.8% per year right now, which will drop to 0.4%. Its supply is now rising more slowly than gold's supply, because gold miners can just go out and, they can respond to this price signal. So their mining has picked up. But what about the deflation side? Well, if you think about 08-09, which was the catastrophic deflation, threatened a global financial bust, introducing all kinds of counterparty risk. Bitcoin is a hedge against that. If you self-custody Bitcoin, you're not subject to any counterparty risk. It's yours, and it's in your wallet. So we think it's got plays a very important role in both, and especially if we're right on how disruptive the world is going to be, disrupted by these 5 innovation platforms, 15 different technologies that are converging, then there's going to be a lot of chaos in the traditional world order, and there's probably going to be a lot more bankruptcies out there than many people expect. A lot of people have been, in the early days of Bitcoin and, and especially Ether, there was this kind of thinking that we would, we'd have a much better distributed opportunities in the private markets. I think we're seeing a lot of we're seeing, for example, Robinhood. Robinhood wants to work with the big companies to decentralize the ownership of these companies. And we're doing that too. We're democratizing with something called an interval fund. Robinhood is very crypto savvy, and from an infrastructure point of view, is building that up. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a version of what we originally thought was going to take place without an intermediary happen first with a Robinhood. So, so I think it's very possible in the next 3 years.
Benjamin Cowen acknowledges that Bitcoin follows highly cyclical patterns. Historically, once Bitcoin falls below its 100-week moving average, it often continues toward the 200-week moving average before forming a durable bottom. This occurred in 2014, 2018, and 2022. While counter-trend rallies are possible, They are unreliable and often deceptive. Cowen's strategy is not tactical trading, it is macro positioning. She expects Bitcoin to continue its slow, grinding decline for several more months, forming a lower high before eventually carving out a true cyclical bottom. This slow bleed is psychologically exhausting, but structurally necessary. Non-euphoric tops produce long, drawn-out corrections rather than violent crashes. These phases generate maximum despair, which historically marks the optimal long-term entry zone.
You know, in 2022, when Bitcoin broke through the 100-week, there wasn't really a counter-trend rally. I mean, it just kind of kept going, had a long wick down, had a little bit of a rally, but I mean, it just kept going. If you go back to 2018, once we fell through the 100-week, we just went straight to the 2. And in 2014, when we fell through the 100, we went straight to the 2. So, like, I don't want to sit here and tell people that you have to have a counter-trend rally. You might not. You might not. But I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people that are betting on one. And I'm not, it makes sense, right? Like, it makes sense for some people to take that view, because when you look, if you didn't know anything about Bitcoin, right? If you were just looking at a chart like this, what would you think? What would you notice? You'd say, okay, we have a slightly higher high, and we're pretty close to sweeping low. And then what I would do, if I didn't know it was Bitcoin, knowing that it's Bitcoin, I feel somewhat deterministic about where it eventually ends up, but because of the cyclical nature of it. But if I didn't know, if you just said, hey, Ben, this is some random stock, how would you view this? Well, the first chart that would come to mind would be the Nvidia chart, right? Because, I mean, Nvidia had this exact same pattern, and, you know, it basically had a slightly higher high, and then it swept a low, and then it went to a new all-time high, right? You can see that pretty clearly, right? A low, sweep the low, new all-time high after a slightly higher high here, right? So you have a high, a low, higher high, lower low, new all-time high. Now, if you look at Google, similar pattern, right? Similar pattern where you had a slightly higher high, you swept the prior low, and then you had this massive rally. You can see it pretty clearly. Okay, so if you told me, if you had me look at this chart and you just simply told me, hey Ben, this is stock, what pattern are we looking at here? I would draw comparisons to the Nvidia and Google chart and say, well, you know, I mean, it seems like if you break below that low and you sweep it, then perhaps you could have a nice rally, and maybe it would go to all-time highs. But the problem that I have is that it seems to me like there's this cyclical nature to Bitcoin. And so if there is a counter-trend rally, right? If there is a counter-trend rally out of this sort of the hole that Bitcoin has dug here, I think it is more likely to form a lower high than to go to a new all-time high. That is what I think. Now, eventually, I think Bitcoin will go to a new all-time high. I just don't think it's going to happen this year, right? At least not. I mean, I think Bitcoin will likely continue to sort of slowly go lower for at least a few more months. And one of the reasons for that is you look at this QT ending bear market chart. We talked about this a while. I mean, this is tracking perfectly. I mean, if you exclude the pandemic, it's tracking perfectly. In fact, in 2019, as a function of time, the ROI of Bitcoin today and back then, as measured from the peak, is nearly identical. Now, what you will notice is that Bitcoin found a low within a few days and then had a nice rally back up, but then it just formed a lower high. And then a little bit later, it then put in another slightly lower low. The reason why non-euphoric tops are so hard is because it takes so long to get the same thing that you would get in another asset class on a euphoric top. So if you go look at silver and you have a euphoric top, it dropped almost 40% in a day. Whereas it took Bitcoin months to drop that same amount. Months. That's the difference between a euphoric top and a non-euphoric top. That's the main difference. the way that it typically plays out for non-euphoric tops, you go back through history, is it's a slower bleed. It looks something like this. It's a slower bleed. And then eventually you get a breakout, right? You get a breakout. Now, in the 2019 breakout, it led to the pandemic. I don't know what would have happened without the pandemic. Maybe we would not have had a deep correction. The problem is we'll never know. But we also had an inverted yield curve back then. Inverted yield curves, when they uninvert, they almost always lead to recessions within a year or two. So you could argue that we would have had a crash eventually. It just might have been for a different reason. So what usually happens is you get a drawdown. It looks something like this. A slow drop. At some point, you get a breakout. And then at some point, you get a final drop into a low. And then a lot of times you can kind of build out of that. Now that's what happened with Bitcoin during the last one, right? During the last one. So I can't make a ton of conclusions for this cycle based on the pandemic because I'm certainly not calling for a repeat of the pandemic. I do not expect the unemployment rate to go to 15% overnight. So I don't think you're going to have that same type of move. With that said, there is a lot of underlying weakness in the labor market.
Cowen draws parallels between today's market and 2019. Rather than the euphoric 2021 peak, in 2019, Bitcoin experienced a prolonged grind lower, brief rallies, and persistent uncertainty, before eventually transitioning into a historic bull cycle. This pattern is once again unfolding. Unlike pandemic-driven liquidity injections, this cycle is shaped by structural technological adoption, demographic wealth shifts, and financial system evolution. As these forces intensify, Bitcoin's role becomes not merely speculative, but foundational. Cathie Wood's $1.5 million Bitcoin projection is not about price. It is about transformation. It is about a world transitioning from centralized monetary systems toward decentralized digital infrastructure. It is about emerging markets leapfrogging broken banking systems. It is about younger generations redefining what money, savings, and wealth mean.